Today's episode is a recording from our recent She Made It live webinar called Confidence Starts Within. You'll get to hear Elle and Julie O'Neill, a seasoned news anchor, reveal the secrets to confidence in their life and inspiration for how you can find deep confidence from within, too.
Have you ever felt like there's something more you're supposed to be doing with your life, but you're not sure what? Well, welcome to She Made It, the podcast that uncovers the journey to living a life that feels more like you.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to go ahead and welcome you. If a few of you are still trickling in, that's totally fine. But to Confidence Starts Within, which is our second ever She Made It live webinar. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Clara Molson. I am the co-host of She Made It, along with being the producer of the show. So I'm really excited about this event. I'm so excited about Julie, our guest, and about Elle, who's our host. And before we jump into their conversation, I wanted to give you just a few housekeeping tips. So the first is that if you can see on the bottom of your screen, there should be a little button that says Q&A. If at any point throughout the conversation you have a question or a question you want to ask Julie or Elle, you can type that in there. We're not going to get to those until the very end of our conversation, but you can for sure type those in while we're going. And then the second thing is that I'll have some really new, fun, exciting announcements and opportunities to share. So you can stay tuned for that. That will also happen at the end of our conversation. So I would love to go ahead and start introducing Elle. Elle is a strategist. She is a mentor and a coach, and she specializes in really helping women get to the next level, more confidence, executive presence. And as a consultant, she helps women to expand their influence as a thought leader. And of course, she's also the host of She Made It. Our guest, Julie, is a news anchor for WCPO 9 News. She has worked in the media industry for over 25 years, and she's worked with gotten to interview some celebrities, saints, politicians, and you'll get to hear all about that. She has incredible stories. So I would just love to go ahead and welcome Elle and Julie so that we can begin our conversation.
So first of all, yay, we're here. We made it. I have been so excited about having you, Julie, on as my guest, and welcome to all of our participants, all our attendees who are here today. This is our second webinar. I love doing live events. I love helping women get to know other women. I love putting women on the spotlight, letting them share their expertise, their tips. And so this virtual platform is like, that kind of the way we have to do it now. So I just thank you, Julie, for being here with me today. And, why Julie, why confidence? Well, Julie and I go way back. We met, I told Julie she's not allowed to say how many years ago.
I'm not giving the year.
But we met years ago. And I think that one of the initial reasons that we bonded was because of this experience we had while we were at the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music here in Cincinnati. So first of all, I just want to say welcome, Julie.
Thank you
so much for spending time with me. And then I just would love to, kick it off by you sharing a little bit about that story and how we met and why confidence is sort of, that event that you're going to talk about, that experience, that was sort of like the beginning of our journey of discovering our own internal confidence.
Well, in one way, it's kind of surreal. Here we are all these years later, not that many. We made a promise to each other as longtime best friends. I wouldn't give her age and she wouldn't give my weight. But we were kind of thrown together. This was when I was in my third major, musical theater at CCM, and we met, as we're both in this program, and maybe some of you have been in this industry and know, how insanely difficult it is sometimes to figure out how you're going to take the criticism. And we had boards this one particular day. One of the pictures that she posted introducing all this, as you may have gotten the email. And generally back in that time when you did musical theater, you You did 2 boards a year, and they generally failed everybody on the first board. I think everybody but 2 people, right?
Yep.
And so yeah, we were in the big club of the failures.
The loser club.
But one of the big things, and people say things to you and you never forget it, and it just resonates so deeply sometimes. And the word used to describe my performance by one of the judges was, "You're a phony." And I think you got something like that too, Elle.
Yeah, mine was because I sang a song from Peter Pan. And so I was told that I was a teenager on an ego trip. And they didn't mean Peter Pan, they meant me.
Yeah. And then, by the way, we both passed our second board and we're invited to stay. But those moments when you just get pounded and you put your heart out there and you're vulnerable, and then you get just tanked. And it was on something that was very intimate for me, very important to me. And that, for one thing, it's, I'm not a phony. In fact, people who know me best would say quite the opposite. I need to be a little more of a closed book because I tell all the time, and I'm maybe a little too real at times. By the way, my daughter is sitting here at the kitchen table and she's nodding, and she's going to be rolling her eyes throughout this. She knows. But anyway, that was a bonding experience, and we had to kind of get through that year together and encourage each other. And I'm so grateful to have Elle in my life all these years, seen me through all the good, bad, and ugly. So thank you.
Yeah. And I just want to say, Julie, I think the other reason why I thought you would be a great guest for this topic is because the nature of both of our careers, that we're judged for our performances, judged for our appearances. It's a very subjective industry, media and the arts. But I think also, the journey that you've been through, and as an actor, then multiple times I'm told no in auditions, but also you talked to me about the gift of being passed over and the failures that came that really grew your confidence.
It grows your confidence, and maybe equally as important as it grows your compassion. And I think, that really is the key to life and relationships and feeling happy and joyful and complete and all those things, is that when you fail, when you lose big and get passed over and have those things happen to you, you develop a greater empathy for others and understanding, and are a better friend and are more relational, and that leads to other successfuls that are more important. I've had a couple of big losses: embarrassment, shame, hard to get up, hard to go to work, hard to be seen in public, all of those things that we've all been through. And they were very necessary for me. But I'll tell you, and we have people of all ages joining in, I assume. And some of you are now in your 50s. And again, I won't say how old Elle is, but when I hit the 50 mark, that was the great gift of my life. Aside from my daughter, that was the great gift. I feel like it was right at that time I passed over into a stage where I care much less about what people say or think. The confidence is brimming right now in many areas of my life, certainly in my career, and certainly did not start that way. And I know one of the things you want to talk about, Elle, is the fake it till you make it part.
Yeah. And I think that, I think confidence, one of those words we throw out a lot. Like, what is confidence? We talk about self-esteem, we talk about assuredness. And I think confidence is a bit elusive because it's a belief. It's like a trust in our ability and assuredness in our ability. And how do you, can you develop it? How does it get diminished? And I just would encourage everyone listening right now to think about, often our confidence is knocked because of criticisms from others or failures we've had or stresses that we've endured or mistakes we've made. But if we go back to ourselves as that young child, I think it's Glennon Doyle in her book, Untamed. If you haven't read it, it's amazing. But she talks about who we are it's like the essence of us until we're like in that 7, 8, 9, 10. And then that's when the world starts to tell us who we are. And that often comes through a criticism or a being told we can't do something or we're not good enough for something. And if we have a critical parent or a teacher, I think confidence is that returning to that assuredness that we're really born with. And it's that reminding ourselves that, we are created to be unique. We're supposed to be unique. And then owning the uniqueness, believing that we're enough as we are. But it's really hard when the world gives us symbols and signs and we compare and we see what others are doing. And so Julie and I, we kind of sat down and we sort of came up with, we know that it comes from the inside out, but if you don't feel it and you have to step into those moments of taking risk or putting yourself out there, what are some ways to just maybe appear confident? And so we're going to kind of go through a couple of those, and then we're going to kind of go back to that internal part of it again. So yeah, Julie, fake it till you make it.
Yeah. Okay. So I recently had to kind of go through and do a little bit of a deep dive because my whole adult life, I've been doing what I do. So it just is my normal. And there I hear people go, how do you get up there? And do they give you the words and and people who are not used to that are just like, wow, you have this stress on a regular, the deadlines and the having to get up in front of people and wing it and, all those things. And that's just my normal. But when I started, I can remember the first time I had to anchor. And by the way, I was the young beauty queen that no one was really wanting to pull for initially because they thought that's why I got the job. And I think didn't want to see me succeed. There were those. And there was a little sabotage too. But anyway, I said, okay, I just have to get out there and do this. And I remember the news director who hired me saying, your theater background is going to help you more than anything, because it was the confidence of when the light comes on and you're on stage, boom. And he was right. So I got out on the desk and something within me said to just pretend you're Connie Chung. And for those of you, if you are younger watching, she was the female anchor of the time. I mean, smooth as silk, very comfortable and all of that. And so I kind of told myself that I was she and started anchoring, not mimicking her, but pretending that I was her. And I thought, that's interesting that I did that. I don't know why I did, but it did work. And I did some investigating, a little researching to figure out why that works. And I found something. I know we have some therapists, psychologists on the line with us. So feel free to jump in with a comment and help us all out if you want to add to this. But I saw where the psychologist in Cognition Today talked about the truth behind fake it till you make it. And there was this principle called the Hebbian principle. And it is what fires together, wires together. So, and basically it's a neurological thing that when these two things are happening at once, then there's a change in your brain and you automatically associate. That's why if you smile, you start to feel happier automatically. You put on makeup, you feel better, all of those kind of things. And so they said, what you're really doing when you say fake it till you make it is you pretend to be in a certain state as you do something. So this will fire up neurons that will bind together. So for a long time, I would pretend I was Connie Chung, and then there were other people. And then at some point, magically, and I'm not sure when it was, I didn't do that anymore. And I will tell you that and we were just talking before we started today about there are areas in my life that I am not confident, that I am frustrated, and why can't I do this better? Why can't I believe in myself? And I'd love for Elle to talk a little bit about that because I know she has some insight. But in other ways, extreme confidence. If you want to send somebody to go get the interview, send me. If you want somebody to handle that breaking news and throw them out there, I'm your girl. And I mean that with every bit of confidence, not to brag, it's just there. But it was a journey to get there.
Yeah. So I have to say, I channel my inner Julie.
Yeah, but just on that thing, not on everything.
Well, yeah, not on everything. No. So I have to tell a super fast story. So been doing a lot of commercial work, and I had really gotten a decent reputation with this one company. And so they would call me to do things. And one of the jobs I did, I showed up and I was told it was the opening of a huge auto mall. And, Auto King, the car dealer.
King's Auto Mall. I remember.
Yeah, they can be kind of cheesy, right? So I showed up and they said, no, this is a live. You're going to be doing live cut-ins all day long. And I'd never done live TV. So all day I kept calling Julie in between. Okay, what do I do? So I get that channeling. I was channeling Julie O'Neill during those live cut-ins. I did okay, but the point
is great.
Yeah. Well, I
stay off my corner.
Exactly. Yeah. I do want to say that, you brought up something about confidence, that confidence is kind of situational. Yeah. That we, just like we have been criticized or we've experienced failures or mistakes, we've also experienced triumphs and successes. And so we do tend to find more confidence in the areas where we have succeeded and where we have risked more, maybe taken chances to develop our talents, been put on the spot. So the key is, how can you take the confidence in the areas where you do exude and shift that into the whole person that you are, into the areas of life where you might struggle. So I guess I would challenge people not to just act as if another, which I think is very helpful, or even like the visioning yourself succeeding can be very helpful. I think you and I talked about that the mind doesn't know the difference between our imagination, what we're imagining. Yeah.
Yeah. I shared this quote with Elle. This was this psychologist, psychotherapist, Hillary Jacobs Hendel. I found this when I was researching this, and it's an article she wrote called "The Role of Make-Believe Play in Adult Life." Love this. She says it's a scientific fact. The brain cannot tell the difference between fantasy and reality. I had never heard that.
Yeah, I love that.
And so basically we lie to ourselves. I always joke that I don't live in reality. I live in Julieality, and it's a much better place. On some level, the fact that it doesn't, that's why you hear from these self-help books and the positive thinkers, you can decide, you can say what it's going to be. And there's some truth in it. And we were talking about how Beyonce, who, we would channel our inner Beyonce when we're going to dance. And it was so wild when we all found out that she has this alter ego, Sasha Fierce, that she turns into in order to be able to get out of her shyness and go on stage.
Yeah.
And then what helps her to do it is putting on stilettos and hearing the crowd. And then all of a sudden she becomes this other thing, and it enables her to, do all that she does.
Right. It's like, how can we then condition ourselves to get in the zone, or whether it's playing music, or I think you and I've even talked about like the mantras, like what are you saying to yourself?
Yeah.
What's the voice? Because some of that, she's hearing this music, she's putting on the shoes, but as she's adopting that character, she's also telling herself something. So
yes.
Yeah. So,
and if I'm honest, in recent years, I have said, in a believing way, send me, put me in, coach. I know what to do, and I got this. And there are pieces in my life where I do feel that genuinely. And then in other places, I feel like, how come I'm still dealing with this problem? Why can't I? And I'd love to know more how to move one to the other.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's about going back to that core belief about myself. It's the believing that, and I have to remind myself this, it's a practice, it's a process to ground myself and remind myself that I have inherent worth. Right. Because sometimes the rewards are coming from recognition. They're coming from external. Like if you and I had passed that first board, were we better? than we were before we started just because someone else told us that we passed. Not really. We're the same. And we're allowing our confidence to be affected by the response, the recognition, or the lack of recognition. So the real, I think, key to that inner confidence, that core of confidence, is being who you are in every situation. And that's by practicing, the self-care, the self-love, the self-acceptance. Ooh, there's my phone. Sorry about that. But it's about the grounding and when we talk about mantras and affirmations have gotten sort of made fun of over the years, but there really is something super powerful about a gratitude practice, about practicing affirmations, because that's a way that imagining, visioning, fake it till you make it. That's kind of a way you can do that through your own personal work.
Yeah. I have paid attention when I've been, kind of researching for this, and another thing I'm working on, like what has helped me. And I one thing that I know I have said to myself for a very long time, namely while I've been in this business, I hear myself saying, I don't embarrass easily. Like I kind of joke and go, that's okay. I don't embarrass easily. And I say that a lot, or I'll say, well, here goes nothing. And, things like that if I pay attention to what I'm saying out loud, I say things to diminish the risk.
So let me ask you,
because I want to be a risk taker. I want to be out there. I want to be able to do it. But inherently, I'm wired to want to be liked, to want to be accepted, to want to succeed. We all have, some of that fear of failure. And so I've come up with these mantras unintentionally to help me feel better and able to take the risk.
So when you say, I'm not easily embarrassed, you're almost, explain how that works for you.
Well, let me give you an example. We've all seen anchor women, anchor men say like stupid things on the air, and you think, how could she not know how to pronounce that word? Or what happened there? We've all had them. And one of the things when you're anchoring is that it's this surreal thing. You're looking into, like right now, I'm looking at the dot at the top of my screen because I know if I look at your face, it's not, so, and they teach you, if you have a good consultant, you're talking to one person. So it's not, a crowd. You're not on a stage with an audience. It's one person. And so you're keyed into that and talking to that one person. The words are coming down the teleprompter sometimes. And then what'll happen is sometimes, most of the time for me, there are going to be parts where there's a missing word, or it's misspelled, or the sentence does not make sense. And I'm taking in that information as the prompter's rolling. And as it's coming out of my mouth, it has to make sense. That's part of the role of being the anchor. And so there's a whole lot going on in the brain as this is happening. And so when you have your copy, the words are, that this particular producer does not pay much attention to looking over it before. And you're thinking, when is that bomb coming? When am I going to step on that? And it raises your level of nervousness and your stress, and then you're more prone to make mistakes because you're waiting for the landmine. Well, one time there was a new script that kicked into the teleprompter. I had gotten no warning from the producer in my earpiece, so I'm reading it cold. And then so immediately you're reading a script that's cold, so it heightens the stress without knowing anything. Well, in that story, there was something about Tucson, Arizona. But because I was so in my mind feeling the stress of what's coming, I wasn't really in the moment thinking about what I was saying. And I said, Tucson.
I knew that was coming.
And I don't, how do you recover? How do you show your face in public? And so I've done that. I've pronounced rhinoceros twice on two separate occasions. So I now have a personal rule that I only say rhino. I will not say the entire word. I know I can't do it. But there have been many of those. And there was this one person I worked with, I won't say who, some time ago, that had, really bad ones. And it was comical. And you have to tell yourself, well, it's a good thing I don't embarrass easily.
Yeah.
And let it go or it'll kill you. You'll think about it for days. It'll eat you up inside. And I you know.
Yeah. And so I do want to just comment. What I hear there is that's a little bit of like, how do you recover from letting, from, I guess almost protecting yourself from, I don't know, just falling apart in those situations.
Yeah. But also
detaching a little bit. Yeah.
I can't go out there and do it at all if I'm going to be worried about being embarrassed or that I'm going to say something stupid, because it's not if, but when. The best of anchors, the smoothest, I've heard mispronounce things or use improper grammar. And I think, oh, but it's the nature of what it is. And you have to, and there's a confidence part, but there's also, some way that we have to frame it to be able to have failures very publicly and still be able to keep doing it.
Yeah, because it's the pushing ourselves, taking risks, trying things that are hard, getting ourselves a little scared that actually grow our confidence. Because we develop a little bit of a resilience through it.
Yeah, what does they say? You don't have courage without fear. If you didn't have any fear, it would not have been a courageous thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't think you knew I was going to ask you this. So we've talked a lot about areas where you're confident and sort of how you overcame failures or embarrassing moments, or what about areas where you don't feel confident? And you don't have to say what they you don't have to say what they are. But
I'm me. I'm very out there.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm open about the ways in which I feel awful. And when you talk about the mantras and things that have been helpful to me, that I have been very self-defeating at times in my life about my appearance. I will tell you that right now I'm in one of those places and I'm working through it. I can't look at myself in the monitor. My weight is not what I want it to be. You turn 50, you have menopause, yada, yada, yada. I've always had the emotional eating, but I'm a healthy eater and I do a lot. I make good choices most of the time and all of that. But, things happen as you get older that makes it harder. And there's a lot that goes on. And I think I have to move through this because whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. And I have to feel joyful and good, like I tell other people to do, and not beat myself up like I tell other people to do. And I have a beautiful young woman sitting next to me at this table that I'm trying to teach how to do that for herself as a teenager. And so it's more important than ever that I get that. And yet I have days where it's very difficult. It's very difficult.
And I want to just comment on that's also something that I think people need to remember, that confidence ebbs and flows. It's not like I'm confident and I'm confident now forever in everything I do. It is a daily process. It is and what I love about what you're saying is that where where you excel, where you do have confidence, where you don't, and you're able to almost like borrow from the areas where you are confident to remind yourself that this is one part of who you are. This isn't all of who you are. And when you get into the bad, those conversations with ourselves that are pulling us down, again, you're saying you do. And I just encourage others to it's being aware of it. It's catching it. It's flipping it. It's, again, going back to what is. I always say to myself, I can look at myself in the mirror and pick everything apart. And when I notice I'm doing that over and over and over, I have to just say, like you said, reframe. And I have to say, okay, what is going well? What looks good today? Rather than the list of all the things that are bothering me.
And as the song goes, that's what friends are for. And we help each other on those. And that is critically important, is to have someone to tell you the truth that you believe and who you value. And I can be in the same room with two different people, and one thinks I'm the bomb and why is she not the main, whatever, thought I should have been the morning anchor. And then another one that wouldn't give 2 cents for me. And I don't know what you see in her, and it's the same girl. And I know that, there are those who are not going to like me. I'm not their cup of tea, and that's painful. I'm not going to lie. But it's, as you get older, it does get easier, and you are able to let that go. If the people that I admire and respect feel good about what they're saying, that's enough. Because the rest don't know me.
Yeah.
And you get better at that, I think, as you get older. Would you agree?
Yeah. And I want to go to what you said about feedback, because I think that when you're struggling in an area that you do lack confidence, I mean, I talk to many women all the time about, they feel confident until they're in the boardroom, in the corporate meeting, and they have to speak up and share their opinion or share, an idea. I speak to women who are, confident with their close friends, but then that presentation or that difficult conversation. So I love the feedback idea that, and you and I talked a little bit about that with the gymnast that you told me the story about the backflip. I love that. Or the triple flip or whatever it was.
Simone Biles.
Yeah, I love that.
Simone Biles. I've read an article. I can't stop watching. You can get that, go to YouTube and watch her triple flip, and you just watch it over and over again. How on earth does she do that? And then she said in this article, let me see if I can find it. It was in Family Circle, and they were asking her about it, and she says, my own mental and physical strength blows me away on a daily basis. I accomplish what I never thought I was capable of. In the moment, I'm like, all right, just keep going, do your routine and move on to the next event. But then I'll watch what I did on video afterward and say, wow, that was me. It's really cool. And it's like in the moment when she's performing, she has she's not aware of those things. But then afterwards, she goes, wow, I just did that.
And that's what feedback does. That's what a good friend does. I think when we're in the day to day, and we're in the process, I like to think of it as like a tapestry. When you see a tapestry and you kind of focus in on where the tapestry's being woven at that time, it just looks like a bunch of wild threads, and there's no order and it's chaos. It's not until you step back and you see the whole thing that you see this beautiful, intricate design and how it all works together. And that's the power of feedback. For her, it had to be a video because she's obviously in this crazy competitive industry, sport. But that's what good friends do. That's what, that ability to, and then also I think you and I have talked about the ability to rise ourselves above a certain situation.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the things that I have found as I do some reflection, because I have been passed over many times. And most recently, there were like 2 positions open, and I applied and didn't get either one. And I was, I mean, it was in that moment, just, I'm all washed up. I'm done. I'll never be believed in. It was so debilitating for me that, and I had to go on the air, and I'll just share, I cried through the whole newscast. I did my segment, the commercial break would hit, I was bawling, and the director is a longtime old friend, and he just would talk in my ear and go, you got it, Julie, it's okay. And I'd clean up, and then boom, the red light goes on, and I do the next part, commercial hits, and I lost it again. And then the newscast was over, and I just walked out of the building. It was just, it's when you have that feeling of, wow, it's very painful. But I will tell you what I had to do to get through that, and you tuning in, watching, and being part of this, you have your own stories like this. But I feel like you have to look at, I tell Elle when she gets down, who am I and what do I value? Who am I and what do I value? I am Julie O'Neill. I love God. I want to serve him. I want to make the world a better place. I want to treat people well and help them. Am I doing that? I mean, that's the real stuff.
Yeah.
And so the rest of it is, it's noise, and we can turn up the noise or we can shut it off. And I always go back. So I thought, okay, one thing that I have tried to do when we've had, other anchor women come in, and, sometimes a person could be tempted to say, ooh, I need to keep an eye on her, or she might take my job. And I made a decision a long time ago. I was going to mentor and I was going to lift up, and I'm going to watch them fly. And I've had a lot of them fly right past me. And that's a good way to live. And it helps you in those moments when you are on the floor and you just say, okay, I've lived according to my values. I have been true to what I believe, and not always perfectly, but this is who I am. This is what I believe. This is who I am. This is what I believe. Yeah. And I also have always said, work at it as in working for the Lord and not for men. And if I did not have that, I would not have a job today, because after that happened, I slept through the night. I got up and I went to work. And I gave him better work the next day. And I ended up making a big believer out of this news director, who eventually promoted me to the morning show, and what I'm doing now, which is the happiest I've ever been in my job. Yeah. And he and I are close today and friends. So but it took that, who am I? What do I believe? And I'm pushing through, doing it for the Lord, not for men, because this is the right way to live. Boom. Does that sound lecturing?
No. And a couple things I want to just say are, it's okay to feel bad. It's okay to have that cry. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to fall flat on your face and be humiliated. It's just then the ability to pick yourself back up, the ability to rise above it and see that you are uniquely you. You're not supposed to get everything right. You're not supposed to be good at everything. And it's the risks that you've taken that have pushed you up against the wall to discover where you are, where you need to go the next time. So the other thing I want to kind of talk about is that I think you do beautifully, is that you compliment, especially the people who you could be jealous of, or you could be catty about. And you said, I lift up. You made that choice. And I think that, what we give, we receive. It all comes back to you. If you're going to judge others, you're going to be, judging yourself, or if you're not going to, if you're going to gossip, it's really more about your own insecurity. So I just love that, how you see a beautiful woman with a quality that you admire, and rather than going, you go right up to her and tell her how beautiful she is.
Well, I'm going to tell you, starting when I was maybe 11 or 12, I started having that really bad relationship with body image. And I know maybe you, listening have experienced some of this, because I think we all have to some extent. And at some point, it occurred to me, like, my younger sister has these long, beautiful legs. She got the legs, and obviously I got the hair. That's what I always say, because she went gray in her 30s and I'm still not. But I always tell her I live vicariously through her with her legs. And it started me noticing women with really pretty legs, like a pretty shape, in my opinion, and especially if they're long, pretty legs. And I found myself having to approach saying, if I had legs like yours, I would wear a miniskirt every day. And then they would be happy to hear this, compliment. And then that sends the happy signal back to me, and we can all be happy about it instead of jealous. Yeah. And so then I started practicing this with other things, like, noticing people's eyes, or I really notice when someone has really pretty skin, because I'm not real happy with this. And my grandmother, who was a beautiful woman, she always go, this old yellow skin. She was the same way. But when you see someone with that beautiful alabaster, I'm like, oh, do you know how gorgeous your skin is? And it's okay to enjoy that and feel good about it and celebrate it. But what's not good is when you look in the mirror and go, it could be worse, which is what I do sometimes. And I have to stomp my foot and say, stop it. That's not okay.
Yeah.
That is a life from the pit of hell.
Yeah. The other thing that I think you do that you probably don't even realize is that it's not that you do the compliment, but you're very openly complimenting. And what I think is so valuable about that is that other women observe you doing that. And we women can tend to be a little bit nitpicky and critical of each other. So you're modeling this incredible generosity of compliments.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I started doing it in auditions because, when you go into an audition, and if any of you have seen, I think La La Land had a great scene where she goes into this film audition and sitting in the waiting room, every single girl looked and was almost wearing the same outfit, same demographics. So you go into an audition where everybody pretty much is the same as you.
Yeah.
And it's so like, the subjectivity of casting. And I started enjoying, admiring, and complimenting. And it really that helped my confidence so much because I didn't go in with a scarcity mentality. I went with this huge, generous, abundant mentality, which freed me up to really show up as my best self.
I like the way you put that, not scarcity, but abundance.
Yeah. And the other thing just about comparison really quickly, I think it's also about, and I say this often, that we often compare someone's win to our loss or their finish to our beginning. And obviously with social media, and there's so many challenges for us to siphon through all that and remember that, we're not going to be the ideal all the time and we can't compare to that.
Yeah.
And we've all heard that, but it's so important. Yeah. Yeah. So one thing that I wanted to ask you about, we talked a little bit about the owning of, it was about the risks, like how, when you were getting started in your career and when you didn't have the confidence, how did you, and not the acting as if and all that, but like literally, how did you develop confidence? And we talked about early in your career, some of the things that you did.
Yeah. When I one thing I've noticed is there are stories that we like to tell about our successes, and we should celebrate them and pay attention to the stories we like to tell, because living those stories does help build the confidence. And I love to tell the story of how I got my foot in the door in the business. And it was my fourth major. And I'd been studying voice and musical theater and all these other things. I studied psychology at one point. And finally, my mom said, broadcast journalism, Julie, you can write. I'm like, I can? Okay, if it only takes 2 years. So 1 year into the program, I have the internship, and one of the reporters commented, you really have a good ear for the soundbite. You should try to get hired. And I said, try to get hired. You had to have 2 years experience plus a college degree, neither of which I had. And so then I went home and I started to brainstorm, I guess. I don't remember where I was or whether anyone was with me, but I remember just thinking through, maybe I should, and how could I do this? And there was this segment they did, but the way they did it from a technical standpoint, it was difficult and they had been complaining about it. And I know when you can solve somebody's problem, that's a good thing. And it was something called the people factor. And I thought, what if I made it my segment? And then it wouldn't be a technical nightmare for the directors. And I could kind of sell myself as the people person and whatever. And so I had the idea to do it. And I knew he was going to say, we don't have any money. You don't have any experience, blah, blah, blah. And so I go in and I asked the news director, can I meet with you for a moment? It was very intimidating to me. Here's the guy in the suit and he's got the power and I'm nobody and an intern and, but he took the meeting and I said, I have an idea and I want to pitch. And what if I did the people factor and then it'd make your life easier and everybody's life easier. And I said, I would tape it. So, if I mess up, you can see it in advance and make the changes and you don't have to put it on the air. And he was amused by me and endeared by the thought, and he said, well, Julie, I appreciate that. There's no money for hiring anyone. I can't, I said, well, here is the beauty part. What I want you to do is contract me for the one segment. So, and my fee is $20. So if I'm in here for 40 hours, no, by the way, I'm not sure this is totally legal at this point, but this was a long time ago. I said, pay me $20 a segment. I'll get the segment done for $20. Now you have me here answering phones and helping you here while I'm getting this done and learning. And it's not costing you but $20. And, then you've got another person here that knows people in town, whatever. I was from there. So says, okay, let me take that upstairs. And the next day I had the job. And a couple months later, I was the weekend reporter. And a week after I graduated college, I was the morning anchor. And it just boom, boom, boom was happening for me. But it was, I thought through how to answer every no he was going to come up with. And when you have done your homework and you're ready for what's coming, you can have a confidence. And from that experience, I know every time I go in with an idea that I want to push or something I want from my news director or boss, I go in with a solution. I don't ever bring them a problem without an answer.
Yeah. And so, because we have I just realized we have a lot of questions.
Okay.
So just to kind of go back on that. So first of all, I just love that what you said about celebrate the wins.
Yeah.
Remind ourselves where we did have victories. I just want to look at something real quick here. I think that, so we have some great questions. So
okay.
I think what I'm going to do, Julie, is I'm going to just sort of read through the questions. You and I can kind of answer them together.
Sure.
There's some great things that we didn't cover that I thought would be fantastic. One is, what's your advice when you're stuck in a spiral of comparison and feeling like it's not even worth trying something when other people are doing it better? And I actually want to say something about that first.
Okay.
So often people come to me about stage fright. And I'm going to give this example because what stage fright is really when you're concerned more about what other people think than you are about what you're stepping out to do. And that doesn't have to be just in a presentation. I think we get nervous, we lack confidence, we doubt ourselves. I think it's about going back to those beliefs of your worth, that you are uniquely made, that you are qualified, and then stepping into it with your intention, not the worrying about other people. And I think comparison tends to be worrying about the other people. What are they doing? How are they doing it? I can't do it as good as them. And it's that grace that we have for ourselves to stay focused on what our objective is and what our process is. And again, almost even like that tapestry, being able to look up and say, here's where I am in the process. And then the other thing I do when it comes to comparison, because I have a terrible problem with comparison, I have to turn off social media. I have to limit my input of other people's experiences because I get wrapped up in all the things that they are and that I'm not. So that's kind of what I would say about that comparison spiral. You have something to add, Julie?
Yeah. One thing that hit me as you were talking, we all have our unique gifts and talents. And you and I know from CCM, there were some of those women that would their voices would fill the room. It was so powerful. And neither of us was ever going to be that. Now, I'll say something about Elle, and she's in this business now, so you've not likely heard her sing. She has a profoundly strong and beautiful coloratura soprano voice.
Thank you.
I cannot hit those high notes like she can. However, there's something about my lyric voice that is pleasant and the way I present that is unique to me. And by the way, the reason I got out of musical theater is because I felt very strongly that whatever it is that I have is from God, and I'm not going to have it criticized. And people think I'm a much better singer when they know I'm an anchor. And it just was too personal for me. I'm not going to hear it. This is it. And it's from God. So I really don't care. So you have to play to what is it that is your strength. And when you talk about, if you look at others and they're better, somebody told me years ago, I should become an investigative reporter. I said, oh, no, I can't do that because I don't like to hurt people's feelings. I don't want to embarrass anybody. I can't deal with awkwardness. I want to be liked. I like people to be comfortable, because that's precisely why you should do it. And in this one time that I had to do investigative reporting and do, an interview that was strong and direct, the way I handled it was my natural self kicked in, and I kept that person comfortable. I stayed respectful. I smiled naturally as I do. I continued to take him back to his successes to keep him comfortable. And these weren't me being phony or manipulating. It was just my natural self of how I deal with people. Yeah. And I ended up getting an hour interview and all the questions answered and a bang up story on the air. And it was very, very different from your typical investigative reporter. Not that there's anything wrong with the way anyone else approaches an interview, but I think for you who asked the question, what is unique to you? And can you bring to whatever it is you're trying to be successful more of who you are, instead of worrying about being more like they are to get to this place? It might be something to think about.
Yeah. And right now, I don't know if comparison is coming from social media, but I do believe right now we're inundated because we've been a little bit more stay at home. We're more screen time. And I really do believe there's a discipline in turning off. I like to really weigh my output versus my input of information. And when I notice that my intake is off balance, that's when I personally notice I'm in that comparison spiral. Yeah. So I hope that answered your question. Another question is, this is a great one too. How can we cultivate confidence in others, in our friends, daughters, and in the women around us?
I'll just say, and this is something we work on together as mothers, Al, when we have our young girls, and then I love to mentor the young people. And part of it is teaching them a way to do things better. And then, when you actually do succeed, it does lift your confidence. And then the other piece is, I don't think you can just tell a teenage girl, I think you're beautiful, because they know you're the mom. But when you get specific about things and you help them to relive successes, moments where they shined, I know there's, we have stories that we know from our kids or from friends where we know they came alive because they stood out in some way. I think it's sometimes a reminding of them, of those moments and what makes them unique. My daughter in the first grade had to they had this challenge in class that was above the grade level. And the teacher said, I'm just curious to see if any of you can solve this math puzzle. And so they're all doing it. And she was really super shy at the time. And so they're all working on it. And she got it done first. And she just kind of, is this right? And the teacher came over, oh my God, made the biggest deal. And it's a story we still talk about today as she's in high school.
See, celebrate our wins.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. What do you think, Al?
Yeah, I think, first of all, just it's, I'll say a couple things. One is just, you reminded me, we have to celebrate our wins and not celebrate those awful things that were said to us about you'll never be able to do this or you're not good at that. So it's also balancing that we're listening to the positive and we're trying to let go of the negative. But when it comes to cultivating confidence in others, I think it starts with me. It starts with, am I practicing self-love? Am I practicing, am I keeping an eye on my own inner critic? How am I talking to myself? What am I saying about myself when I walk past the mirror, when I finish a meal that I've cooked? So I think it's the example because, we're modeling. I also think that you said it when you talked about what you imagine your mind believes is as real as what might actually be happening. And I think when we envision for our children, our friends, when I say, oh, I see you doing this, and I just think that has been really powerful, the way I've seen it, that show up for at least my daughter.
And being attentive to when you see this person that you want to, you want to try to grow this person's confidence, being very in tune with how they're operating, what they're doing. That one of the girls that I mentor at work, I threw something at her on the air, and she was very quick with a response and went on. And so then in the commercial break, I said, "Do you see what you just did there? It takes so many people many, many years to do that simple little thing. You're a natural listener. You were paying attention to me, so you weren't thinking about what you're going to say next. And being able to listen and then transition like that, that's a gift."
Yeah.
And she
So
was
noticing.
just so happy. And I saw her grow 3 feet. And but I was in tune with watching her to help her with that. And so this person, because I really, really, really love this young woman. She's precious. And so when this person you really want to help with that, being in tune with finding those things and what they're doing well, and it'll grow.
And, at my age, I have to be very careful not to repeat the patterns of how I was raised, so I catch myself loving, not like sometimes parenting and scolding can come across like shaming. And so I have been very mindful of really loving and accepting my children's choices. Obviously, I'm still parenting them, and they're not, they're still have to be, parented, but not shaming them in the way of communicating with them. So
and that's a whole other talk.
Yeah. So another question is, and I think we can all relate to this. I've become so self-critical as I'm getting older, in my early 50s, my own worst enemy, everything from my appearance to baking a cake. How can I see the good? Objectively, there is some. Yeah. So I'll just say, it's like what the head knows, like I know, but what does the heart believe?
Well, you've heard me already talk about that. I deal with some of this, and I'm in a spot right now where I won't watch myself on television. And I have moments of just feeling horrified by what I see. Will I ever be slim again? Will I ever have that, what I used to call my fighting weight? Things like that. I've joked, Michelle knows I hate my neck. And then I think at some point you have to decide, you either accept and love the way it is, or you get surgery. It's one or the other. And you have to decide what you're, where you are with it. I'm fine either way with what anybody wants to do. But if you've got to figure out how to make it bigger than all of that. And they talk about in the 30s, you're this, and the 40s, I think, is when you're at your 30s is when you have the energy, 40s is when you're smartest, and then you get into your 50s, and that's where you're the most wise. I'm like, I'm wise now? Gather around, everyone.
You're a sage.
I'm like, wait a minute. I want to be in the smart category.
Yeah.
And it, you have to, it's transition. The transitions in life are the hardest part. And I feel you. I'm here with you. Maybe misery loves company. We're going through difficult things as we make transitions into the next part. But I can hear my late father, who died about a year ago now, saying, that's a lie from the pit of hell. You are a daughter of the king. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Don't you talk about my daughter that way. And just remembering who God says I am, who my daddy says I am, and that I am beautiful. And sometimes you have to I got this from Crossroads Church. When you hear yourself being critical, you stomp your foot. Sometimes you have to do something physical. And
lick your head.
It's whatever works.
Yeah.
But you're not alone. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I love that. We are actually, believe it or not, Julie, at the top of the hour.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, wasn't that good?
Yeah,
well,
thanks.
That's good.
I hope you watching have gotten something from it. I'm honored to do it. That you would want to hear anything that I have to say. I've been very blessed, and I'm blessed to have you, Elle, in my life. And, the thing that she offers to the world, I've gotten for free the last 30 or so years.
Yeah, actually, that was something I think we're going to bring Clara back on too, just to wrap us up. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this. We do have some other questions. So I just want to read, Julie. Julie, you're fantastic on the air. I love your comment about why you don't sing for your profession. It's a gift. You have a beautiful voice. Keep up the good work. I totally get the body image thing. I was 2 to 4 and the size 2 to 4 until around 50. Struggle with it. There's so many more questions here. So maybe we'll do like a little follow-up and we can send out in an email some answers to some of these questions or something.
Yeah. And
I really want to be respectful of time.
Right. Whatever you want to do, I'm fine. And I'm on Facebook, Julie O'Neill WCPO. Message me anytime, email me anytime. I'm honored that you took the time to be with me for an hour tonight. Of course, I have to go to bed soon. I'm up at 2.
Yeah. And I just want to say, I think I'm going to get Claire back on here. I was just going to say that we have, the thing I was going to announce is that we are, I just have gone through, Clara, are you back yet? There she is. I've gone through, hi, Clara. I've gone through, I believe that the key to confidence is really starting with self-awareness. It's starting with uncovering your blind spots to help you get to the next level. And so as part of the webinar series, I'm offering a free a call to, I've been doing Enneagram coaching for those of you who are familiar with the Enneagram. So you can, I'm doing free typing sessions. If you're not familiar with the Enneagram, there's a page on my website, lzimmerman.com/Enneagram. You can read about it. But basically, it's kind of like the launching into a mentoring, coaching, conversation, experience. So that's available. Is there anything else, Clara, you want to add for us as we wrap up?
Can I jump in real quick before Clara?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I have to say, Elle did the Enneagram with me and my nieces and my daughter. And that was the most profound conversation I've ever had in that family setting. I know these young girls and women in my life better than I ever have before. And I think that was a really cool way to do it, Elle, to do it in a group, like to offer it like to a family, to identify where you are in this. So just whatever, I'll be quiet. I love that. I loved learning about the Enneagram and who the other people in my life are.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I guess the only thing I would add is that I know that with confidence struggles, it's so easy to get so trapped in our own mind, and the power of having a guide like Elle to sort of help you see your life and see you and see the opportunities and possibilities from your life from a more objective and hopeful perspective is just so powerful. So if you want to schedule a discovery call to learn more about how she could work with you and encourage you on your journey, you can just go to lzimmerman.com and click on discovery call.
And it's free.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you so much, Julie, for being here. Thank you, Clara, for always supporting and helping bring this out to so many more people. Hey, really quickly, you want to just kind of let them know about She Made It and where they can find it?
Yeah, so the She Made It podcast is available on any platform where you listen to podcasts. The most popular ones are, of course, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And this episode will be releasing soon so that you can listen to a replay of it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Yes, thank you, Julie.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.